welcome back to Canberra for the Supernova Race 2. On the start list today, there's 30 athletes on the start list, but there seems to be a little bit less on the start line. So we've got a staggered start today. 30 athletes are off in this women's race walk. Great conditions in Canberra today. It's about 23 degrees, which is great for a summer race in the afternoon. It can get quite hot in Canberra. And you can see Jemima Montag out on the outside lanes there, leading from the start. Got an addition to this race from the first Supernova race. We've got Sandra Lorena Arenas from Colombia, who's the silver medalist from the Olympic Games in Tokyo, where the race walks were held in Sapporo. So that certainly boosts the field for this event. Looks a little bit windy out there as well, but the temperature is great for some good performances. Coming down from altitude, 22 of these athletes participated in the study, the Supernova study, where they spent 3 weeks in Perisher training at high altitude. We've got 13 countries participating today, and the youngest starter, we've got a young one, it's only going to be 16 years of age, Zoe Woods, number 29, so doing a 10,000 metre race walk at a young age. Coming through for the first lap. About a 2-minute first lap, just under 2 minutes. So they've spread out quite a lot. We've got Jemima in second place. Raquel Gonzalez just coming in the red there, moving up into third place. And Druz Biotti, the Greek woman, in fourth place. Now leading down here, quite difficult to see the numbers, but leading we've got Clémence Beretta, the French woman, from Jemima Montag and Raquel Gonzalez. So these 6 athletes have pulled away, or 7 athletes have pulled away from the field. Beretta leading, Jemima Montag second, Raquel Gonzalez third, Antigone Druz Biotti fourth, and the Olympic silver medalist for the 20-kilometre walk, Lorena Arenas, is in fifth, and in sixth place is Magali Bonilla from Ecuador, the country that brought us Jefferson Perez, the 1996 Olympic champion. When they come around to this 200-metre start, they'll be coming around for 1 kilometre. Mark And they've gone out a lot faster in this race than the first race. So it'll be interesting to see how they pull through in the 9 kilometres of the race. And you can see a judge standing there with their paddle. They've gone around 4:35 for the first kilometre, which is on par with what they did in the first race, but they certainly picked it up and brought it home in the second part of the race a month or 3 or 4 weeks ago. And Jemima came through with an amazing 43:35, a great start to the season, very strong walk by her. Andrews Biocha was second, the Greek girl was second in the last race at 43:51. So Beretta's certainly taking it out. So all these girls have done except for Arenas, have participated in the study where they've trained at altitude, 1,700 metres down in Perisher in the Snowy Mountains, down south of Canberra. And they've all had to do a VO2 test in the last couple of days. They came down from altitude to Canberra 4 days ago. And it's a fascinating study. It's research focusing on female athletes and the effects of a low energy diet and training and the adaptations in your blood to altitude training. So it's something that will benefit many endurance athletes, not just race walkers, but many endurance athletes around the world, the information coming from this study. And so in a way, these athletes are guinea pigs and helping research and helping the future for the distance female athletes. Only about 10% or even less than 10% of sports research has focused on female athletes. So this will add to that, but we still need to get numbers up because, as we know, we're very different athletes and have different requirements to become elite athletes. So it'll be an interesting, the research, and the research is led by Professor Louise Burke, who was head of nutrition for 30 years at the AIS in Canberra, to the Australian Institute of Sport, which is where this track is located. Just going through 1,200 metres there now. They're all looking very comfortable, all have very good techniques, long strides, looking very relaxed, all of them. They've dropped the other French girl, she's just dropping off the back now. But Beretta's still leading the way. They'll be coming round. That's number 8, which is Eloise Turek from France, just dropping off the back of that lead pack there. This is Hannah Myson coming through, and Elizabeth Millen from Sydney, the young Sydney sider, who's just moving. She'll turn 19 this year, so the future of race walking there for Australia. Bonilla, the Ecuadorian walker, is just hanging on the back of that pack there, just behind Lorena Arenas, the Olympic silver medalist. It's coming through for 2 kilometres now. 9:05 for that. So they've just about 4:30 for that last kilometre. So just improving a little bit. 8 kilometres to go. Coming down from altitude, 3 weeks at altitude, every athlete has their different ways of approaching competitions, and many come down to compete in an elite competition 3-4 days or a week later. After you've come down from altitude, they like to compete. Every athlete is very different in what to get the best out of their body. And this research, some athletes will be eating a low energy diet coming down from the altitude. So their reactions and their body reactions, they're all being measured. They've all been wearing glucose devices to measure their blood sugar levels. And they've also had body composition tests looking at their body fat and reaction to that. So really interesting data coming from this study. And obviously a great way to get some race walkers together. There was, at one stage down on the track down there in the Snowy Mountains, there was 50 race walkers on the track with a kangaroo in the centre, if you've seen any of their social media posts. There was some beautiful photos of race walking around the track, doing repetitions, 1 kilometre repetitions, and a kangaroo sitting in the middle of the track, just joining them for their daily training session. So I think a lot of the international race walkers really enjoyed that aspect of it. Get close to some Australian wildlife. Now that's number 27, Annette Tomar from Hungary being lapped. One of our international athletes. It's probably not up to, definitely not up to the level of these athletes here in the lead. Now Bonilla, that is at the back of that pack there, was hoping to stay in Australia and do some more competitions in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully we'll see her competing maybe in some local competitions as she prepares for the season. Raquel Gonzalez, the Spanish walker, didn't participate in the first race as she was unwell. So she certainly recovered from that and done some great training down in Perisher and ready for this second race. In blue there you can see the Italian race walker, Valentina Trapletti, who has been around a long time, and she's one of the elder race walkers in the competition. 1 year younger than Dries Biotti, who's certainly come a long way in the last few years and had a big break, Dries Biotti, from race walking. After not making the Athens hometown Olympics, she had a break from race walking for nearly 10 years. And then now she's come out and certainly going very well as an older athlete, 38 years of age, she'll be 39 this year. And she won both the European 20 and 35 kilometre race walking championships last year in Munich, after placing 4th at the World Championships in Eugene. And she was 8th in the Tokyo Olympics. So that break from race walking didn't do her any harm, and she's able to come back in her later years to race with the best of them. Okay, we're coming around to the 3K mark now, 3,000 metres. They seem to slow down a little bit there, a couple of seconds slower than the last kilometre. Not too much. Maybe at 4:34 for that last kilometre. You can see the bike rider in the background there. He will be going around collecting the red cards from athletes. And you can see the disqualification board just before the 100-metre start on the inside of the track there, and the penalty zone as well in the outer lanes that hopefully won't be used by any athletes. Now, Beresha did 46 minutes in the first test race, so she's certainly on pace to go faster than that. But I would expect these athletes to wind up the last half of the race a negative split. And Jemima certainly negative split in the first race, going through the first 5 kilometres in 22:15 and then really bringing it home in 21:15. So really, really strong in that last part of the race, which certainly happens at many international races. The last 5 kilometres in a 20 kilometre and even the much longer race, the last 10 kilometres are very important and crucial stages of the race. It's a little bit different on the track, 25 laps on the track, and it being a 10,000 metre race. The world record in this event on the track, it was broken at the 1991 Goodwill Games, and as a youngster, I was 16, 17, I remember watching that on TV, and it was a sprint finish between Ryashkina, the Russian, and Australia's Kerry Saxby, who was my idol, and certainly a great role model for race walkers back in the day, breaking 26 world records and being a pioneer for race walking, for women's race walking. And certainly her times stand up today. And that race in Seattle was one of the most exciting races on the track I've ever seen, with a sprint finish. And Ryashkina just edging out Kerry Saxby and breaking the world record in 41:56. So I don't think we'll be seeing any world records today. But these girls, Jemima's 43:35 was a brilliant start to the season for this year that she did only 3 or 4 weeks ago. Still got these 6 leading race walkers. In the lead, Beresha from France. In second place, Jemima Montag. And in the red is Raquel Gonzalez. And then on the outside of her is Antigone Drisbiotti from Greece. And as well in that pack is Lorena Arenas, the Olympic silver medalist. And at the back there, Magali Bonilla, who was second in the South American 35 kilometre championships last year. So she focuses a lot more, Bonilla, on the 35 kilometre race than the 20 kilometres. So I would expect her to be stronger in the last part of the race here. Coming through now is Eloise Terek from France, who placed 6th in the first race in 46:26. Number 19, Alana Pitcher, is coached by Frank Overton on the central coast of New South Wales here in Australia. So coming through now, just over 18 minutes, so just over 45-minute pace for 5 kilometres. They've gone through now 15 laps to go, 6 kilometres to go. So all checking their watches. And you can see on Jemima's right arm, on Drisbiotti's right arm, you can see that the glucose monitor there, that all the athletes, all the female athletes part of the study have had to wear over the course of the study to monitor their glucose levels. So I would expect that they'd start to wind it up now, going a little bit faster each kilometre, just lapping a few athletes already, fairly spread out the rest of the field. That was Drisbiotti just looking at her watch. They're very conscious of each 200 metres. It's the great thing about being on the track, other than counting laps, is that you can work out your splits for every 100, 200 metres if you'd like. Usually on the road, you only have your 1 kilometre splits, so you can certainly keep an eye on your pace much more frequently on a track race. Just lapping Zoe Woods, the youngster from Australia. She's only turned 16 this year, so very young race walker. Having the opportunity to race walk with the best in the world, which is an exciting opportunity. Bonilla's just dropping off the back there now. Now Canberra's actually a similar, for me, it's a similar altitude to Madrid, the capital of Spain, and a very dry temperature, a very dry climate down in Canberra, not very humid at all. Gets quite cold in the winter, but gets very, very warm in the summer. You can see it's quite windy. There's a crosswind across the track today. You can see the trees moving, much more windy than the first race, definitely. And this is number 16 coming through, Elizabeth McMillan, the young 18-year-old from Sydney. And Tripletti, the Italian in blue. Okay. The lead pack once again coming through finish line with 13 laps to go. So they will come round to the 200 metre start for halfway. We'll see what they are at halfway. Beretta's still leading. She's a 20 kilometre specialist and she was 6th in the European Championships last year, and she was placed 17th at the World Race Walking Teams Championships last year in Muscat in Oman. So she's gradually been improving over the years, and I'm sure she's looking forward to Paris, the Paris Olympics next year. Coming down the back straight. 5 kilometre mark, 22:43, 5 kilometre. So just slower than 45-minute pace there. It's a fair bit slower than they did in Canberra in the first race. So it'll be interesting to see how this second half of the race pans out. Starting to spread out now, so Drisbiotti's taken the lead with Jemima Montag in second, Raquel Gonzalez in third, and Lorena Arenas in fourth. And Beretta's just dropping off the pace, so I think definitely big change of pace there from the top four. It'll be interesting to see what this next kilometre time comes out as. Now obviously this race being a silver level World Race Walking Tour counts for points for the Race Walking Tour, but also for world rankings. that can help qualify you for the World Championships. There's two ways that athletes can qualify for the World Championships, either through world rankings or doing on time. And this certainly helps if they do get a good place here and do a fast time. It helps with their world rankings. With the events at the World Championships in Budapest this year, in August this year, being the 20-kilometre race walk and the 35-kilometre race walk. Now, Lorena Arenas wasn't taking part in the study, but it's come out here to train, do some altitude training. Obviously, she's trained many years at altitude and coming from Colombia as well. She's just dropping off a little bit from Raquel Gonzalez, who's in third place, the Spanish race walker. Eleven laps to go. And down the back straight, you can see walkers coming back into the lane one. They're going over and getting drinks. There's a drink station there. This is number 21, Emma Hachundova from Slovak Republic. Number 23 is Bianca Dietrich from Germany. Druz Biotti's certainly pushing this pace. Jemima Montag looking very comfortable, as well as Raquel Gonzalez. And the Olympic silver medalist, Lorena Arenas, has just dropped off the back there. So they seem to have wound it up quite a lot. So they'll come through with 4 kilometres to go. And they've come through 27 minutes to 27:02. So that's about a 4:19 last kilometre, so much faster. This is the business end, as they say, of the race, and these girls are really pushing it now. 4:19 for a kilometre. You can see a stadium over the back here just behind the 200 metre start there. That was the location for the 1985 World Cup, where Marita Koch broke the 400 metre world record. So this is now the main athletics stadium in Canberra, which was the warm-up track for that World Cup. You can see their shoulders, especially Jemima and Antigone Druzbotti, very relaxed shoulders. They've all got great strides, these girls, really long strides. And their techniques are really good, really beautiful to look at. And none of them seem to have any issues with judges, which is great to see. They're just lapping number 21, who is the Slovak race walker. Arena's coming through now in 4th place. and Beretta seems to have dropped off quite significantly. I don't think any of the lead pack have actually got a drink yet, which, you know, being 23 degrees, it's, if you're hydrated, you should, it's not too hot, you should be fine. Beauty sitting on the outside there. You certainly cover a lot more distance on the outside. It certainly can add up. It's over the course of 10,000 metres sitting on the outside, nearly in lane 2. Raquel Gonzalez is just dropping off the pace. Extremely good conditions down here for a race walk, which over the years they've done lots of races in Canberra in the summer, and it has been quite hot, so it's good to see that it's not too hot. 8 laps to go, so they'll come round to the 200 metre start with 3 kilometres to go. They'll get through the 7 kilometre mark. And Drisbiot is certainly pushing the pace. And Jemima Montag looking very comfortable. They'll actually be lapping the Italian walker Tripletti soon. And the young Australian, McMillan. Through in about 31.20 there, so once again about a 4:19 pace. And Drisbioti's Jemima has just pulled away in such a short time, certainly put the accelerator down now. Great move by Jemima Montag, very strong. Looking very, very strong. See, her arms are very low, very long stride. Jemima's stride is shorter out the front, much longer out the back, whereas Drisbioti's much longer at the front. Her stride's length at the front is much greater than out the back. Gonzalez in third. Arena's coming through in 4th place. We've just had number 25 pull out, which is Shah Hay, another young Australian who's just turning 20 this year. So she's just pulled off the track. She'll be a DNF for this race. But these leaders are certainly moving. Jemima coming down the front straight, lapping Gabriella Hill. 19-year-old Australian. Jemima doing similar to what she did in the last race, just pulling away in the last part of the race by herself, and she looks very strong there. She actually has to get a flight back to Melbourne straight after the race because her university degree She's studying medicine. She's missed the first 4 days to finish her training block here and be part of the study. So she's missed the first 4 days of university, and she has to fly back to Melbourne to go back to her studies. So this year she'll be balancing her studies and training, which is not an easy task, but she's an extremely capable young athlete and a great role model for future athletes on the way you can manage being both an elite athlete and have a career out. And it's not easy travelling and training and trying to study away from home either. And so that balancing act can be quite difficult, and some people certainly can't do it. And it's a challenge. Raquel Gonzalez coming through now. So coming down the front straight with 2 kilometres to go. Looking very strong indeed, Jemima. Coming through in 35:22. So very, extremely fast last kilometre. She's really so there's a bit of cloud cover today, which certainly helps cool the temperatures for the athletes. 22 coming through there, Hannah Myson. A lot of people say, oh, to be a race walker, you have to be tall and you have to have long legs to have a long stride, and that's certainly not the case. Jemima's not tall at all. I think she might be about 160 centimetres, and, well, the 1997 world champion in the 10,000 race walk in Athens was an Italian, and she was only about 4'11". So when you look at the stride length of Jemima Montag, it's compared to how long her legs are, she has an incredible stride length. She's just lapped Hannah Myson. It's a great opportunity for these athletes not only to participate in the research for the future of women's sport, but also to train with the best in the world and be part of an elite training environment at altitude. So, you know, doing those track sessions with the kangaroos on the track is a lot of fun, but it's also very beneficial to your preparation. And to do it at such an early time in the year is certainly helpful for the long-term preparation for the World Championships in Budapest later in the year. Drisbioti's not letting her get away here. She's really trying to work on and cut that lead. Many lapped athletes now coming through. The French girl Beretta and Terek's being lapped now, but Beretta dropped off the pace when they really put the hammer down after 5 kilometres. They've done some couple of big weeks, 150-kilometre weeks down in Perisher at altitude. So to walk fast and to have that turn of speed at such an early time in the season is a fabulous way to start off 2023. coming through here now, 9 kilometres. 9 kilometres in 39. So they're about 44-minute pace. So they certainly kicked down in the last couple of kilometres. And those big kilometre weeks at altitude certainly didn't do any harm to Jemima's preparation. Raquel Gonzalez coming through here.
Come on, Jen, you're going to have to go again. Come on.
2 laps to go for Jemima, and she's pulled away from Dries Biotti. She's got about a 15-metre lead now. I was talking to Brent Valance, Jemima's coach, a couple of days ago, who's also the lead on the research for the study. He was telling me that Jemima's going to balance her studies this year, but next year take a year off studying to focus on the Olympics, which is would take a load off her mind, definitely. As well as that, she's part of the IOC Young Leaders program, and she's created a girls play-on program to encourage women to keep physically active and participating in sport. So, you know, she's an all-round person, great athlete, very intelligent and personable. So it's great for athletics and great for race walking. Now she'll come down here and get the bell. It's a really great performance by Jemima, just real great turn of speed to come home this last 5 kilometres. Very fast. Extremely fast last 5 kilometres. There's the bell for her. She just lapped again the Slovak athlete. Dries Biotti with the bell there as well. And Jemima really bringing it home now, really pushing this last lap. You can see some of these other athletes are struggling. Their technique, high arms, that should be a bit more relaxed. And here comes Bonilla, the Ecuadorian. So Jemima will lap her, which is, you know, it's great to be lapping people because it gives you a challenge of what to head, and especially on a 400-metre track, there's always someone around, so you can push yourself when you're out in the lead like that with Jemima by herself. You can always go for that next athlete. Looking very relaxed as she comes down to that finish line. Just lapping the Ecuadorian athlete, the 35-kilometre specialist. And Jemima Montag will take this out. Extremely fast second half of the race. 43:49, she finished at 43:45, it's her time. So she's come through just over 21 minutes in that second half of the race. That's an incredibly fast 5 kilometres, let alone second half of a 10-kilometre race. Super fast. And Dries Biotti finishes, and neither of those women looked exhausted at the end. So very strong. Now we'll have to keep our eye on who's coming through for the other placings. But Jemima Montag, incredibly fast last 5K, and a little bit slower than her race a couple of weeks ago. This is Raquel Gonzalez, who's the Spanish race walker, coming through 44 minutes 51 seconds, 44:51. Trapletti, the Italian, with 1 lap to go, and Arenas coming through in 45:05, more or less, 45:05. So Gonzalez came home as well, 45:17 there. For Beretta, I think that was, who's certainly improved. She's improved a lot in the last race. Those last 4 weeks training done her very well. Bonilla just finishing there, 45:40. So fast times for the first athletes. And Jemima, super fast, 43:45. Obviously, we'll have to wait for the official results, but I think she might have done a personal best hit for 5K in the second half. No, she's got a super fast 5K personal best. So, not a PB for the 5K, but certainly much faster than most of the other women can do in a 5K, looking at their PBs. For only 5 kilometres, and she's doing that in the second half of a 10 kilometre, 10,000 metre race. So most of them getting the bell now. Trapletti finishing here. Big sprint, 46:42. So the Italian was much faster than her last race in the beginning of January here in Canberra. Almost a minute faster, but she did struggle that race. She struggled a lot, and I saw her on the infield after the race. She was exhausted, so she looks much stronger there. Be able to. And here comes the other French girl, 47:9 for Terek, Eloise Terek. (47:30). So there's a lot of finishes under 47.5 minutes, which is a decent time. It'll be good to see the results, see the last couple of them. Keep in mind that some of these athletes are only 17, 18, 19 years of age, so a 10,000 metre race walk is very, very tough. And I couldn't imagine doing it at this level with all these elite athletes at that age. It's a big jump in distances for juniors, I think. And then once you're out of juniors, you have to jump to the 20 kilometre race walk. So that's another big jump. Years ago, it was only a 5,000 metre race walk for juniors and a 10,000 for 10 kilometres for the elite, the World Championships and Olympics, but they moved that up, which I think, personally, I thought it was detrimental. I don't know if I would have been in the sport as a junior if I had to race 10 kilometres. I struggled to race 5,000 metres, and to do the training to race 5,000, and then actually to double that as a junior, to dedicate the time for a 45-minute race. And not only dedicate the time, but the challenges that come with it, out there on the road, training for many hours. And then after you're a junior, jumping up to a 20 kilometres, it's a big jump. And for me personally, I think it's too long. I would like to see the distances shorter for juniors, for both men and women, especially, we're trying to attract people to sport of athletics and to race walking and to keep them in the sport. There's so many other things that are a distraction or an attraction outside of participating in sport these days. And to keep athletes in the sport, I think the shorter distances certainly help as a progression. I don't have the results, so unfortunately I can't feed any of you the results. I don't have a results feed of who's where, so I'm just picking it out on the camera. But it was great to see Jemima Montag once again come through and is smoking the last 5,000 metres to win today. Just beating Drisbiotti, the Greek European champion at 20 and 35 kilometres. You can see some of the men in the background warming up for their race that'll be starting soon. Just waiting for the last few to come through. Many of them are young Australians that have taken this opportunity to participate and compete against the best in the world. Their home track, I suppose, if you call. They're not all from Canberra, from around Australia. Some from Sydney, Adelaide. This is number 26. This is Hannah Bolton, who she didn't participate in the study but has competed in both races in the 10 kilometres, in the 10,000 metres. So great opportunity for her. I think she'll be a little bit faster in this race, Hannah. She only turns 20 this year, and that's what I was saying. Just these young athletes, it's a big jump going from 10 kilometres to a 20 kilometres, and even doing 10 kilometres at this age is really tough to train, to prepare and train. And I think that's Hannah finishing now. She's just about on PB pace. Just a little bit slower than PB pace for her. But faster than what she did in early January at the competition here. The local time here at the race in Sydney is it's about 6:45 night, so good conditions to post some fast times, especially at the end of a 3-week altitude camp. And all the women that participated in that Supernova study that was funded by the Mary MacKillop Institute for Health Research, as well as Athletics Australia and the Woodside Human Performance Alliance, had the benefit of having lots of tests done, blood tests, blood analysis, body composition analysis, and they obviously had to do 2 VO2 tests. So a few of them did them yesterday and the day before, and they had to do them at the start of the study as well to see how the study affected their bodies. And it'll be interesting to see the data that comes out of this research. And not only is a camp like this and these races great for the international athletes and great for race walking, but it's great for the race walking in Australia, for people to see the elite athletes in action and to compete against them and to train with them. Great for the development of the event in Australia. And this is, I think, the 7th Supernova camp that they've had. So lots of international athletes have benefited from coming out and training in the summer at altitude, and the Australians certainly don't have to travel for once. People don't realise how far Australia is away. It takes 24 hours sometimes to get to Europe. That's the quick route. I know coming back to Europe this year took my family 36 hours. So it's a long way from the rest of the world, and it's something that Australian athletes do once or twice or 3 times a year to travel around the world and participate in the competitions. So it's a good opportunity to have something in Australia. 27, 28, number 28. This is Gabriella Hill, 19-year-old, young race walker. As I said, the World Championships are coming up in Budapest, Hungary, in August this year. So all preparation will be focused on that. This being part of a 10,000 metre race can count towards points for your world ranking, which can count towards qualifying for World Championships as well, depending on the level of the race and how fast you go. And this is a silver level World Race Walking Tour competition. So the top level of the World Race Walking Tour is the gold level. Just waiting for our final athlete to finish here, Gabriella Hill, who is a little bit off. She'll be she'll be over 3 minutes off her personal best. So that'll probably be a little bit disappointing for her. But she had the opportunity to participate in a track race against the Olympic silver medalist and Jemima Montag, who won the race, who was 4th in Eugene at the World Championships last year. So certainly an elite field with some great depth. So a great opportunity for Gabriella. We have the boys' race coming up next, where there'll be there's 19 on the start list. 57.50 for Gabriella. So it's a 3 minutes slower than her personal best. We'll just wait for the boys to get on the start line now. 19 starters. You can see the shade coming over, so even cooler conditions for the boys' race. Up next, with the days getting shorter in Australia as the summer comes to an end. If you're a viewer of the first race, you will remember there was a bit of a delay for the men's race, and they were all standing out in the sun trying to keep warm. So hopefully there won't be a bigger delay in this race. as the men just get on the start line. And we're fortunate to have, obviously the men's, there's not as much depth in the men's for this particular race. They're not part of the study that was in Perisher, but many of them have come out to train in an environment that is an altitude camp, and to be around the elite athletes and to get away from the cold. You know, Perseus Karlström, who's from Sweden, it's pretty tough to train in Sweden at this time of year. So coming down to Australia, into the Southern Hemisphere, and preparing is a good way to train in excellent conditions, and with some great training mates as well. He's been training with Evan Dunphy from Canada, Rydian Cowley, the Australian, and Declan Tingay. And there's also the Lithuanian, Marius Ziukas, who was at the training camp. So we'll see how they'll fare after being at altitude for 3 weeks. They're down there training in Perisher at 1,700 metres. They also all were able to, they went for a walk up, they hiked up to the top of Australia, to Mount Kosciuszko, to 2,200 metres. So the highest mountain in Australia is certainly not as high as many mountains at altitude around the world, but it's a beautiful region down there in the Snowy Mountains, and very quiet at this time of year in the summer, because there's no snow at the lower altitudes. You can see the men just gathering out on the track now. We're a close-knit bunch of people, the race walkers, and very supportive of each other, and you know, very passionate about our event group and ensuring that we promote it. And no one more so than Evan Dunphy from Canada, who's done some great promotion. He had, during the Olympic Games last year, he had Kraft Foods did a promotion and some advertising of getting people out race walking, and it was a really fun, positive promotion, and got Evan Dunphy and race walking in front of everyone in Canada, not just the athletics community, and brought race walking to the forefront, which was a great opportunity. And then he came through with a medal at the Olympics Games later on. So an excellent year for him last year. So you watch him come through in the later parts of this race. He noted on social media this week that he was more motivated than ever, and certainly really great form for this time of the year. So he's certainly got his motivation back, and excitement and passion for the sport, which is great to see. It is a long season, and especially for a distance athlete, lots of kilometres, and keeping focus for a long period of time. The boys have got a staggered start as well, being with the 20 athletes on the start line, 19 to be exact. It's 25 laps around the track. I always found it mentally challenging to do 25 laps around the track, but I think most of my races weren't done with a lot of competitors on a 10K track. It was just the state championships and things like that. So it's such a great opportunity to have a number of athletes in the race when you're doing such a multiple lap race, 25 laps. And they're off, the men, the 19 men. Much less international than the women's race. The women's race having 13 countries represented and 30 women. This only has lots of Australians, 19 men, and 16 of them are Australian. We have Perseus Karlström, who is the Swede in the event, probably the taller of most of the athletes. He's in the blue shirt, just gone to the front now. He's from Sweden. He'll be 33 this year, so certainly a little bit older than the youngest competitor, who was born in 2008. He'll be 15 this year. Number 3 is Declan Tingay. On the inside, number 2 is Evan Dunphy. And then Rudy and Cowley is number 4. Rudy and Cowley's gone to the front. He's coached by Brent Valance, who has been the lead in the research that I was talking about during the women's race, and he coaches a number of Australian athletes. He coached Jared Talent to his 4 Olympic medals. And there are a number of ex-race walkers that were helping as part of the training group down in Perisher. Jess Rothwell, who's the National High Performance Lead in Nutrition, represented Australia in race walking. Regan Lamble was also support. She was 9th at the 2016 Olympics in 20 kilometre walk. Also helped by Andrew Jackno, who was a silver medalist at the Commonwealth Games in 1990. So lots of former race walkers helping, putting back into their discipline of race walking, putting back into the sport of athletics. We have Declan Tingay now, who's taken a lead, the young Western Australian who's now based in Melbourne. Number 3. And of course, Australia's most prolific race walker, Jared Talent, he's now coaching a number of athletes, and he coaches Kyle Swan, who's number 5 in this race, who placed 4th in the first race in 40 minutes, 08. So we'll be looking forward to seeing how Kyle goes in this race. Now Perseus is just on the back there now of not letting Declan get too far away from him. You can see the difference in height there. Perseus is just over 180 centimetres tall, so one of the taller race walkers. Coming through in 3rd is Rydian Cowley, and in 4th is Evan Dunphy, and 5th place, I think, is Kyle Swan. So there's a big gap in the field after only a few laps. Now coming through for the first kilometre here, very fast first kilometre, 3:50. First kilometre. So, that's just under 39-minute pace there for the men, so very fast. Perseus Karlstrom has a personal best of 37:57. So that's a super fast 10,000 metre race walk. Most people would be quite happy to run 4-minute kilometres for a 10 kilometres race, and Perseus Karlstrom doing much faster, doing 3:48 kilometres for his 10,000 metre, 3:45 actually for 10 kilometre pace. Very fast indeed. So just first and second we've got through Declan Tingay and Perseus Karlstrom. Coming through now is Evan Dunphy in the hat, Rydian Cowley and Kyle Swan forming the second group. And that's Marius Yikus of Lithuania coming through now in 6th place. At the back of that, you could see Carl Gibbons, New South Wales athlete. He's coached by Frank Overton up in northern Sydney, Central Coast of New South Wales. 21 laps to go. Tim Barrett, a former race walker, just reminded me he's done a 50,000 metre walk on track, so a 50 kilometre walk on track. So that's certainly a lot more laps than a 25 lap race of it's a 10,000 metre walk. I couldn't imagine doing 125 laps. I wasn't too good on 25 laps. Awfully tough out there. So these guys, super focused and certainly very spread out for the being only 1,500 metres into the race. Perseus Karlstrom's ranked number 1 in the world at the moment on points, and he has a great turnover of speed, a super fast 10,000 metre time, but can race a fast 35 kilometre as well, being, you know, both bronze medalists in the 20 kilometre and 35 kilometres at the World Championships last year. Certainly looking for a big year this year. Probably one of the bigger race walkers that you'll see out there, and a very solid guy, upper body. But race walkers do have a strong upper body. You need to use your arms to drive your hips. 7:35. Very fast, very fast. First 2 kilometres. That's 38-minute pace. 38-minute 10,000 metre pace. So very fast first 2 kilometres for these boys. Very different to the women's race. So we'll see if they can sustain this. The women went off a lot slower, but really Jemima Montag and Antigone Drusbiotti smoked home and for fast last 5,000 metres. So it'll be interesting to see how these boys, especially the leaders, come through in the last part of the race. Now, Kyle Swan's just dropped off the back of Evan Dunphy and Rydian Cowley. But those boys are about 80 metres behind the leaders now, or a little bit more, about 80 metres behind between the top two and the next two race walkers. Coming through here now is Rydian Cowley and Evan Dunphy with 19 laps to go. Declan's just pulled away a little bit from Perseus Karlstrom there, and here we have Marius Ziukas from Lithuania coming through. He's in 6th place. And that's Carl Gibbons coming through, and the boys just taking some drinks there. Kyle Swan opting not to take any drinks. And Declan Tinga's just opened up a bit of a lead here, about 5 metres, lapping the field already. All these men will be looking to get good fast times for their start of the season, but also it helps for qualifying times, for qualifying for the world rankings to qualify for the World Championships later on the year in Budapest, Hungary. They should put on a great World Championships in Hungary. They held the World Indoor Championships many years ago. It was in 1989, and Kerry Saxby won the World Indoors in 3,000 metre race walk. So coming through now, Declan Tingay, about 11:21, so still under, that's at 3 kilometres, so still under 38-minute pace for 10,000 metres. Now I would expect Evan to come through the last couple of kilometres a lot faster. Just his background, the way he always seems to be able to pull something out in the last kilometres of every single race that he does, whether it's a 10,000 or a 50 kilometre or a 35 kilometres, he seems to be able to do it. So it'll be interesting to see how he comes home. Kyle Swan just coming through in just under 12 minutes there, so he's just under 40-minute pace for 10,000 metres. I think Declan's increased his lead. He's studying sports science at university. So another one that we can get on to help athletics and sport after he's finished his career. This is Carl Gibbons from New South Wales coming through. Now we have Dylan Richardson and Marcus Wakim coming through there, 200 metre mark. Now Perseus is going for a drink here, and Declan hasn't taken a drink. It's still fairly windy out there, and it's cool conditions, so it's nothing like it could be in a Canberra summer. It can get up to 35 degrees, 40 at times I've been down there. Now, Canberra is the capital of Australia for those overseas people that think Sydney is the capital. Canberra is the capital, and Canberra is a great place for race walking. Hundreds of kilometres of paths, bike paths for training, beautiful lakes for training. It's the perfect place for a race walker. Evan Dunphy just coming through now. He's about 150 metres behind Declan Tingay. 16 laps to go. So he's a very confident Declan, and opened up a big lead there to Perseus. He's only going to be 24 years of age this year, Declan, so very young, still in race walking years. Hopefully he'll have a long career. Okay. 14:25. Coming through there with 200 to go until the 4 kilometre mark. Kyle Swan coming through there now, just leading Dylan Richardson. Kyle Swan's coached by Jared Talent. Kyle's come through the junior ranks. Very fast first 4 kilometres, 15:10. 15:10, so very, very fast. For Declan Tingay. And is under 38 minutes. For 10,000 metres. Perseus is grabbing drinks nearly every lap now, which is interesting. Declan deciding not to get any drinks. Now, walking with Kyle Swan was Tim Fraser, the 22-year-old, turning 23 this year, who's also coached by Jared Talent. So some great former juniors coming through and being coached by former elite athletes is certainly a bonus for them to be guided by someone that's won so many medals like Jared Talent at international levels, so consistent over many, many years. It's important that we keep them in our sport and a great support network for future race walkers and race walking in Australia. Dylan Richardson, number 11, Owen Toyne and Marcus Wakim. Marcus is coached by Adam Garganas, who's a former race walker. I was on the team with him many years ago as well. Great to see him as well, putting back into the sport of athletics. Declan seems to be pulling away here from Perseus. Number 8 is Mitchell Baker, also coached by Jared Talent. Number 16 is Will Bolsell, and then Jack McGinniskin. All young Australian athletes competing against the best in the world. And Declan Tingate certainly taking it to Perseus Karlstrom and extending his lead here. As you know, the 50 kilometres is not an international event at World Championships or major meets anymore. And a few people weren't impressed with my comments about the 50 kilometres being changed. And I should have prefaced it and said that I love the 50 kilometres, and I've said this all the time. I've spoken to Robert Kozhanowski over the years, and I loved watching the race 50 kilometres. The men race it and the women later on. But certainly there wasn't enough depth in the women. But my most memorable experience of a 50 kilometres race was at the World Cup in Monterrey, Mexico in 1993, where the Mexicans placed first and third and won the teams. And to have tens of thousands of Mexicans lining the streets chanting Mexico, Mexico, and Mexico has this great tradition of race walkers. So, you know, some of the greatest race walking events at the World Cup especially have been in the 50 kilometres. But you can see that the depth is not there as it was back then, and times changed. So that was why I supported the change to the distance. "12 laps to go." So they went through 5 kilometres in just under 19 minutes. So well on pace to do 38 minutes if they sustain that pace. Here's Rudian Cowley coming through, number 4. And as well, Will Thompson from Australia. It'll be interesting to see if Perseus does the double again this year in Budapest, the 20 and the 35 kilometre race, adding to his medal tallies, 2 bronze from Eugene last year. He is a Western Australian boy, Declan, but supported now living in Melbourne, Victorian Institute of Sport. And studying down there. He's got about a 70-metre lead now, and he will definitely lap the majority of this field. Declan coming down now the front straight. He will come through at the 6 kilometre mark. Now he will have 10 laps to go when he comes through. (22:44). So still keeping a very fast pace. 38 minutes for the 10k pace, so that's great. And Perseus Karlstrom is coming through now, and he's coming through in 23:05, so he's about 20 seconds behind. You can see the difference in technique. Perseus Karlstrom very erect, and a couple of the other athletes that are struggling, they're leaning a bit far forward, and so that can actually restrict your stride length if you lean too far forward. Percy is quite an erect walker though as well, and so the difference is exaggerated when they're passing ones that are leaning forward. But if you do lean too far forward, it can really be detrimental to your stride length. So it's important that you have a little bit of a lean, but not too much. Now we haven't seen Evan Dunphy come through, so it'll be interesting to see where he comes and what pace he's on. So those three athletes, Tim Fraser, Dylan Richardson and Owen Toyne, are just coming through the finish. There's Evan there, just going through now. Number 14 is Tristan Camilleri. So Declan's certainly going to improve if he keeps this pace by a long margin from his first race. That was in Canberra a few weeks ago. His personal best is 38:42. There's Evan there, number 2. Riddy and Cowley will be seeing Evan Dunphy in the lead there, just in front of him, so he'll be trying to chase him down, but look out for Evan to steamroll home. Evan with the hat. Owen Toyne is wearing a hat too, and number 13 is Marcus Wakim and Dylan Richardson. They've been together for most of the race, those three. Pretty much the whole track is in the shade now, so temperatures would have dropped a little bit as well with this shade. Declan will come round to the 200-metre start with 3 kilometres to go. So we'll see if he's keeping pace there. He's looking very strong. Perseus is coached by Rob Heffernan in Ireland. World champion Olympic medalist, Rob, and certainly a great coach, and putting a lot back. That he just started an athletics club in his hometown of Cork and has the Rob Heffernan Race Walking Academy as well, that through the COVID years certainly helped a lot of young kids connect from around the world doing online racing. Now, Declan's just gone through 7 kilometres in about 26:33 from my calculations. So still keeping that smoking pace of 38 minutes, just under 38 minutes. Here comes Perseus. So he's about 21 seconds. So he kept his distance behind. And Declan is just now lapping Ridian Cowley. Who trains within Melbourne. Seven laps to go for Declan. Declan is coming round now. He's just lapped Ridian Cowley and coming, he will probably lap Evan Dunphy as well. So going really, really great. So Declan is actually on Australian record pace, an Australian all-comers record pace. So and that record has been around for many years. I'll have to be about, I think, 30 years at least, that record. So it would be great to see him get this record on the track. It's currently 38:20 for Dave Smith, who's the father of Dane Bird Smith, who was the bronze medalist in Rio in the 20-kilometre walk, who's now retired and is a fireman in Queensland now. Okay, 6 laps to go for Declan. And Dave Smith broke that record, I think, in 1990. So let's keep an eye on that. They're the judges around the track. We haven't seen anyone go into the penalty zone as yet, which is always a good news. The penalty zone's set up just about the 90-metre mark on the front straight. I talked about technology in judging in the last race and how I supported it. And I think, for consistency in judging, it's imperative that we move with the times and look at the opportunities. There's lots of sports doing it now. Even gymnastics was looking into it with the support of a technology sponsor, how they can judge more consistently. I don't think we'll ever get rid of judging the judges, but if we can make it more consistent with the support of technology, then that's certainly the way to go. And as an athlete, I think every athlete should want that. 30:23 for Declan. So still on national all-comers pace for him. And that record was actually set in 1985, so 38 years ago. It would be great to see that record broken. And he's just coming down that backstraight, and I don't think Evan will make it easy for him to lap him. And hopefully Evan will get on the back of him and utilise Declan's pace to come through the last couple of K as well. This is a great race from Declan, the majority of it by himself. And that's where you can use as I spoke about in the women's race, use these lapped athletes to help push you. And he's going to have to do that because it's going to get tough in these last 5 laps. You can see also the difference between the two walkers here. Evan leans a little bit more forward than Declan. Declan's got a lead of about nearly 150 metres now on Perseus, the double bronze medalist from the World Championships last year. And he's just lapped the Olympic bronze medalist in the 50 kilometres. Evan, look at Evan trying to stick with him. His fight and his grit is amazing. He just really has that ability to guts it out, and that shows in the last part. If you watched him race a 50 kilometre race, he's always coming through in that last part, and he can just guts it out. All right, coming down the front straight now, and Evan's still hanging on there. Just hanging on to Declan Tingay is about to, hopefully, fingers crossed, he'll come away with this race with an Australian all-comers record, an Australian record. 3 laps to go. Let's see how he goes. So 1 kilometre to go at the 200 metre mark. Let's see if he can keep on that pace. The shadows over the track have meant that Perseus has taken off his sunglasses. Sun's setting here at the race in Canberra. It's 7:30 at night now, so great time for racing, for great results. And we're coming through 34:13, so right on. He should break this. Fingers crossed that he can keep this pace. He's right on 38-minute pace now. The Australian all-comers and the Australian national record is 38 minutes 20 set in 1985 by Dave Smith. So this last kilometre is crucial, and he certainly went out hard from the gun to get this record and to have this great performance on the board. You see the bike riding around there. They're picking up the red cards for athletes between the judges. 2 laps to go for Declan Tingay now. And there's actually no 10,000 metre world record for the men. But there's a world best, and it's by Iki Takahashi from Japan, 37:25. And my great friend Tim Barrett, former Canadian race walker, helps me with some of these stats and tells me that only 7 athletes have ever broken 38 minutes. And one of them is actually Percy, who's in the race. So I'm not sure if Percy will break 38 minutes today, but it's looking great for Declan Tingay. He'll come through with the bell lap. see lots of the athletes crossing over their feet. Percy has a more rigid, straight-legged walk, straight landing with his feet. So a little bit of a difference in the technique. Okay, coming through now, bell lap, 36, 33. 1 lap to go. 147, if he does a 147 lap, he breaks the national record and the all-comers record, 10,000 metres race walk. Perseus is coming through now with 1 lap to go. Getting the bell, 37.05. Declan Tinke looking very strong, still relaxed. His shoulders are down. A few of these boys are on really fast times, hopefully getting some personal bests here as well. It's number 8. That's Mitchell Baker, who's coached by Jared Talent. Here comes Declan down the front straight now. He's going to get this Australian record. Amazing walk from Declan, strong from the gun. Just over, is it? Just over 38 minutes. 38.03. Brilliant walk from Declan and the 23-year-old. Brilliant walk. Australian record, Australian all-comers record as well. 1 lap to go for Evan Dunphy. And here comes Perseus Karlstrom. Not sure if we're going to see his finish. Yep, we will, in a time of 38. 38.36. More or less. Very good time from Percy. Great hit out for both boys. Perisher has done them well. And especially Perseus, as he was sick for the first race. Evan Dunphy coming home strong his last lap. Not a PB, but still it will be a very fast time for him. He's had a very good training camp, very motivated, as I said at the start, for the year. He noted on social media this week. Really pushing it, 39. He'll break 40 minutes, it'll be 39. Really pushing right to the end there. You can see him leaning forward, you can tell he's a little bit tired. 39.45. Great race from Evan Dunphy. And coming through as well was Rydian Cowley now, who wasn't far behind him for the finish. Hopefully we'll see, here we go, the Olympian. 35 kilometre specialist. 40.02, so good time for Rydian as well. Not a personal best, but still a great hit out for the start of the year. Now, Kyle Swan coming through, the young Australian, coached by Jared Talent. .40.23. Mitchell Baker last lap. Will Thompson just came over the finish line then, about 40.52. Owen Toyne and Tristan Camilleri coming through now with 1 lap to go. These young Australians. This is Carl Gibbons from the Central Coast, New South Wales, coming down the finish line now. He's got a personal best of 42.19, so he's going to do a personal best in this. Great job. $42.09. And that's Mitchell Baker, just finished 42.12.13. He's coached by Jared Talent. Dylan Richardson finishing now and really pushing to the line there, 42.50. So that's a personal best for him. Some of those boys laying on the ground exhausted after their effort. They've really pushed it in perfect conditions. A little bit windy, but other than that, very good conditions, not hot at all. So these two boys finishing now, Owen Tyne, number 12, and Tristan Camilleri, number 14. Oh. Sorry, Tristan's got another lap. Number 16, Will Boschel. He's only 18 years, he'll turn 18 this year, so very young. He's a junior, so looking for a World Juniors qualification. This is Jack McGinniskin, turned 21 this year. So he'd have to make the step up to the 20 kilometres from the junior ranks couple of years ago. 44.09. So that's a PB for him. Great effort. Great big PB for him. Minute 40 personal best. Dylan Richardson coming to the finish line now. Oh, not Dylan, sorry. Number 16. Will Boschel. Will Boschel finishing there, 44 minutes, 40. So another personal best for him, for Will Boschel. Great effort by these young Australians. Huge PBs in great conditions. This is Tristan Camilleri. 45.07. So a little bit slower for him, Tristan. So just putting that performance from Declan into perspective, 9th on the best all-time performance ranks in the all-time. That's amazing, and still so young. So an excellent race from him, and a great start to 2023. Give him confidence going into the international season and for the World Championships in Budapest later this year. So that's the end of the coverage today for the 10,000 metres, the Supernova Silver Level World Racewalking Tour race.
step flips to have a try to find that Oceania